even though it's the case that the water of Flint, Michigan has been contaminated with lead for multiple years, the residents of Flint, Michigan were still billed for the poison water that they couldn't drink. Now, rather than reimbursing every single resident that paid for their poison water that they couldn't use, the city of Flint is doing the opposite, and they are now threatening to penalize the citizens of Flint, Michigan, and threatening to take away their homes if they don't pay their poison water bills. Not even kidding. NBC 25 News explains thousands of people in Flint are at risk of losing their homes to foreclosure if they don't pay up on their water bills. After recently putting out shutoff notices, the city is now back to threatening tax liens on people's homes. I got scared for probably the first time since all this started. This actually scared me, said Melissa Mays, who is a mother and water activist who lives in Flint. Mays received the notice in the mail Friday, stating that she must pay nearly $900 by May 19th to avoid a lien being placed on her property. The Mays family is not alone. More than 8,000 people are on the same notice. What gets them on this list is not paying a water bill for 6 months or more. After May 19th, for those who do not pay, a lengthy process begins which could end in foreclosure. Now again, the residents of Flint, Michigan, they still don't have clean water. They recently received funding for the EPA to begin replacing the pipes that have lead in them. So most residents don't have clean drinking water, and you're threatening the residents who didn't pay their water bill. It's only reasonable to not pay your water bill if you can't use the water. Why would you pay for something that you can't use? I mean, they couldn't drink the water, but the city maintained that they could still bathe with the water. However, there are residents that talked about how the water was so potent that they actually had to open windows because it burned their eyes. Like, this was bad. This was not water that is safe to human beings, so they didn't pay it in a move that was rational. I wouldn't pay it as well. It's the principle. You don't pay for something that you can't use. But yet, the city is now punishing them, saying if you didn't pay for your poison water, you're going to lose your house. You're going to become homeless. We're going to foreclose on you. Now, the city is doing this for a very specific reason. City leaders say they are in a bind and they need the cash. We have to have revenue coming in, so we can't give people revenue. Give people water at the tap and not get revenue coming in to pay those bills, said Al Mooney, City of Flint Treasury Department. Mooney hopes the 8,000 tax lien notices that went out will prompt even more people to pay their water bills. If all of those were paid up, that would bring nearly $6 million for the city. So, in other words, the city's in a bind. They need money because the government of Flint is completely criminally incompetent, and they are trying to get that money from the citizens whose water they poisoned. This is despicable. I mean, for one, I don't know why the governor of Flint is not in jail right now. It's unbelievable. This is a clear case of criminal negligence. Again, they did not have water for years. They still don't have water. Most residents in Flint, Michigan still do not have clean drinking water. And you expect them to pay their water bills and pay back water bills. I mean, this is one of the most unreasonable things I've ever heard. This is not just. This is unacceptable. You can't threaten the residents who have been suffering. But, the city of Flint wants them to suffer even more because of their own incompetence and inability to raise funds. We are the richest nation in the world, and we have people who do not have access to clean water in the country, and we're punishing those people who made the rational decision to not waste their money paying for water that they couldn't use. That's unacceptable. That's egregious. That's not justice. That's injustice, and it's unfair. And to anyone in Flint, Michigan, there should be protests. To all 8,000 people who received this notice, you should be protesting your state legislature. Go to your city hall. Protest. Raise hell, because this isn't right. You cannot let them do this to you. Now, again, as I stated, to anyone that paid for the water that they couldn't use, they should be reimbursed for that, because you shouldn't be forced to pay for something that you can't use, especially if what they were paying for was detrimental to their health. Things have got to change in this country. There should be national outrage about this, but honestly, what has the mainstream media said about this? We need a political revolution. where we change the way that we do politics in this country, where citizens are in control, not these greedy elites who continue to rip us off and profit off of our lack of access to clean water, our lack of access to health care. It's just sick.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.